The change is already happening, gang. We are in the middle of a global shift. Now, I break it all down in my most important book yet, America Awaken. Go to americaawaken.us and get early access now.
I'm gonna sue you, buddy. You got my penis. You're a rapist. I'm 17. You got my death. You got my penis.
Is this how President Trump will finally end the Democrat Party? Over the weekend, tens of thousands of protesters marched through the streets of Los Angeles in defiance of the series of ICE raids that are all part of President Trump's mass deportation efforts. And I need not tell you, things quickly turned violent. In the midst of their waving foreign flags of countries that, ironically, they don't want to be deported back to, they began pelting police cars with projectiles. Rioters began setting self-driving cars on fire and attacking police officers with pyrotechnics and fireworks. And then thousands of anti-ICE rioters took over the 101 freeway in L.A. Hundreds of drivers were suddenly trapped on the highway at the mercy of these violent rioters. And that is when President Trump said, "Enough, bring in the troops."
This is crazy, man. How is this LA, man? This is crazy.
Kids in the car, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna arrest you for your kids.
The city of LA just got a new motto: F-A-F-O, F around and find out. President Trump has cracked down on the riots, and as a result, it looks like he's about to end the Democrat Party permanently. And I'm going to show you exactly how. Hey, gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. You're a Patriot professor here to celebrate right along with you the rise of a new American golden age that you made possible back on November the 5th. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Your Patriot professor has been rather busy over the weekend. I had the honor of being on Newsmax yesterday. I was on the panel of the Sunday Report with John Glasgow right when these riots were starting to heat up. And what I said there was this: if ever there were an 80-20 issue, this is it. Border security, mass deportations. These are consistently the issues that poll the highest level of support among all of President Trump's initiatives. Even the latest CBS poll over the weekend that skewed overwhelmingly Democrat. It has a Democrat response bias embedded throughout. Even they had to admit that even in the midst of that bias, a clear majority of voters support Trump's mass deportation efforts. His aggregate approval, when you average out all the left-wing bias polls like CBS, The Economist, Harvard-Harris, Morning Consult, Marquette, all the ones who told us that Kamala was going to win in a landslide, every single one of them shows a majority siding with Trump on immigration. Every single one. His aggregate immigration policy approval is 52%. RMG, one of the more accurate pollsters of 2024, has a support up closer to 60%. If there were one issue that consistently polled overwhelmingly in Trump's favor, it's this one: border security and mass deportations. And so more and more pundits on both the left and the right are recognizing this is not 2020 anymore. The vibe has shifted, and shifted overwhelmingly. Voters are not as ambiguous as they were over immigration after 4 years of Biden's unprecedented open border policies. And so this isn't Trump showing the kind of restraint he showed during the so-called summer of love in 2020, where he allowed far-left lunatic mayors and governors the jurisdiction to control their riots and prosecute violent offenders. Trump knows that these leftist lunatics believe that abdicating their law enforcement responsibilities is actually a symbol of fidelity to the post-American radicalism that's taken over the Democrat Party. He knows that Soros-backed DAs are committed to implementing what they call restorative justice, meaning if you're the right color or ethnicity, you can literally get away with murder. These DAs have basically made it illegal to enforce the law on you. So unlike 2020, which PJ Media is calling the summer of surrender, when our country basically got taken over at every institutional level by a color revolution, by the Marxism, BLM, and all kinds of woke insanity. In contrast to that, we are seeing today the summer of the steel glove. The summer of love has been replaced with the summer of the steel glove. We are seeing decisive action, a strong, immediate federal response aimed at restoring law and order with the overwhelming backing of the American people. Within just hours at the very beginnings of these riots, President Trump deployed 2,000 National Guard under federal control, bypassing the feckless weakling who occupies California's governor's mansion, Gruesome Newsom. So on Saturday night, Trump signed a directive ordering 2,000 California National Guard troops be deployed to L.A. despite objections from Gruesome Newsom. Now, of course, normally a governor has control and command over their own National Guard, but President Trump, as the commander-in-chief of armed forces, of course, he has the executive power to override that control and command, and that's exactly what he did. In the directive, he signed a specific provision within Title 10 of the U.S. Code of Armed Services, which allows the president to federalize National Guard troops if there is a danger of rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. If such a danger arises, the president has plenary authority to call up any and all members of the National Guard to repel and suppress that rebellion, and that's precisely the provision that Trump's directive cites. And of course, he's not alone. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is ready to deploy Marines if necessary, signaling a no-nonsense approach to public disorder, a measure fully backed by none other than House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Secretary Hegseth said that active duty Marines there at Camp Pendleton, there by San Diego, are on high alert and could be mobilized. Could we really see active duty Marines on the streets of Los Angeles?
You know, one of our core principles is maintaining peace through strength. We do that on foreign affairs and domestic affairs as well. I don't think that's heavy-handed. I think that's an important signal.
You don't think sending the Marines into the streets of an American city is heavy-handed?
We have to be prepared to do what is necessary, and I think the notice that might happen might have the deterrent effect.
Hey, gang, if you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When was the last time you checked on your home title? That's the legal proof you own your house. Well, if you're like me, the answer is never. But the problem is that today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp. They pay a small fee with your county, and voila, that's it. Your house title's been transferred out of your name. Then they take out all kinds of loans using your equity, or even they sell your property, and you won't know it's happened until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. That's why you need to stop what you're doing right now and find out today if you've already been a victim. Use promo code Turley Talks, all one word, Turley Talks, at HometitleLock.com. to make sure your title is still in your name. You'll get a free title history report, plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's a 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to to fix it. So go to HometitleLock.com now. Use promo code TurleyTalks. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code TurleyTalks. So if this summer of the steel glove stands in direct contrast to the summer of love of 2020, what remains the same is, of course, the legacy media, the fiery but mostly peaceful protest press, whose commitment to shilling for all things leftist literally knows no bounds.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Now, keep in mind, those who tell us that these are peaceful protesters are the same ones who tell us that biological males competing with women is fair. The very people telling us that these are peaceful protests were the same people telling us that Joe Biden was a cogent, physically fit president. Not to be outdone, here is ABC News taking gaslighting to a whole new level.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
That's right. You heard that right. You heard that with your own ears. Sending in the National Guard is completely unnecessary when it's just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn. That, my friends, is the modern day legacy media. That is how far they are willing to shill for post-America left-wing activism. And it gets even better. Here's the New York Times. Look at this. This is from their editorial board. They're worthless, pampered, elite, out of touch, cosmopolitan editorial board. Trump calling troops into Los Angeles is the real emergency. Now, these are the scenes that the self-proclaimed protectors of democracy, the self-proclaimed enforcers of the rule of law at the New York Times, these are the scenes that they are endorsing. You have today a Democrat Party that has completely, for the last 4 years, completely abdicated their law enforcement responsibilities. And that's perfectly fine with the far left activists disguised as journalists at the New York Times. When did the editorial board of the New York Times ever run a headline like that when it came to the wide open border and 12 million new illegal migrants over the last 4 years during the Biden administration? When did they ever do that? Unfortunately for them, they don't appear to realize that they, along with their precious Democrat Party, are in the process of committing political suicide. Every single Democrat governor in the nation has taken the side of the rioters. They have taken the side of those waving the Mexican flag. They've taken the side of those attacking ICE agents, precisely because such attacks have been inflamed by Trump's deliberate escalation and sending in National Guard troops. How dare he? Make no mistake, this is political suicide. Stephen Miller said it well, quote, "Maybe in 3 years Trump fatigue sets in and Vance or whoever the nominee can't overcome it, but I genuinely have no idea how a national party whose primary concern is illegal criminals supporting Hamas and advocating boys and girls sports in locker rooms ever wins a national election again." Like I said, gang, this is the 80-20 issue par excellence. And the Democrats are finding themselves on the wrong side of a decisive political moment in our nation's history. What we have to understand here is that the Democrats have fully embraced this radical ideological notion of post-America. They believe that America's success and power came largely from exploiting the very countries that migrants are fleeing from. You have to get that. Your average Democrat believes today that America's power and affluence comes from exploiting the very nations that migrants are fleeing from. So when they see the waving of those American flags, for Democrats, that's a sign of victory. For Democrats, that's a sign of victory. That's a sign of victims vanquishing their historical conquerors. That is what the Democrat Party wants. They want the Mexican flag waved in triumph over the United States. This explains precisely the last 4 years and the open border policies. Open borders were reparations. They didn't need cash reparations. They got their reparations in the form of an open border. Today's progressives believe that America's wealth and power comes from exploiting the very countries that migrants are fleeing from. Hence, opening up the border allows them to pillage us in a manner comparable to how we pillage them. That is what the Democrat Party today is all about. It's all about a radical Marxist conception of social justice that allows for and indeed encourages the pillaging of our people, the pillaging of our country. It's all about enabling the historically oppressed to become now the conquering oppressor. Commentator Christian Hines summarized this very well. What is America is not a question that can be hashed out through debate, either online or in the halls of Congress, and we might add on Fox News. You're not going to reason with a lib who thinks Mexicans waving foreign flags and screaming, "Viva la raza," long live the race, are just as American as you or me. The only way this is settled is through decisive action. The left already acknowledged this when they opened the floodgates to the third world for 4 years under Joe Biden. The right now must respond in kind by setting aside the rhetorical arguments and congressional speeches and instead arresting Democrat politicians in California and elsewhere who are complicit in pushing for open borders. Brilliant. Brilliant summary of exactly the stakes. This is America first versus post-America. And post-America, the proponents of post-America is willing to use decisive action like allowing 12 million new illegal migrants over 4 years into the country to guarantee their vision of post-America becomes victorious. The question is, and again, they're on TV, they're on CNN, they're all on MSNBC lying about it, saying, "Oh no, borders completely secure," like Mayorkas would say, or what do they call her, Karine Jean-Pierre, the Notebook lady. Oh no, the border's completely secure. They would be on TV lying about it while taking decisive action behind the scenes. The question now is whether the right, those who purport to be America first, are willing to employ measures just as, if not more decisive, to ensure the victory of our America first vision. One side has already made it clear it is willing to go to DEFCON 5 for their vision. And so the only question that remains is, will our side do the same? The good news is that it does appear that President Trump recognizes the stakes here. He recognizes that this is exactly the stakes. We must take action that is every bit as, if not more decisive than their actions. We must be even more determined to protect our nation as they are in destroying it. And if we do, we're not just going to crush an anti-American pro-migrant riot in LA. We may indeed finally crush the anti-American Democrat Party as a whole.